tell me, why is it that we are here in Ghana, there is a military base here that American soldiers can walk in, no passport, no ID, they walk right through. If they commit crimes, they rape women, they kill women, no policeman in Ghana can touch them. Why? Where is the Ghanaian military base in the United States? Where is the French military base? Where is the Burkina Faso military base in France? Where is the Nigerian military base in Russia? Every superpower is building bases throughout Africa. Where are the African military bases in those countries? As I say some of these things, it's almost like it's a joke. I like Nigeria, you know. Nigeria said when the US government increased their visa to $250 to get a visa to go to the United States, Nigeria said, no worries, you also have to pay $250 if your people want a visa. But turn around and go to Namibia, I was shocked. Namibians pay about $170 to get a visa to go to the United States, but Americans, when they go to Namibia, nothing, zero, not a penny. Just come. Now guys, let's have a serious conversation here. Who is stupid? Whose problem is it? We are the problem. What is leadership doing? Leadership is doing nothing. Leadership is voting on sheer stupidity. Stupidity that is causing us havoc. The same people who are abusing us, taking advantage of us, exploiting us, they are laughing at us because we are jokers. What are we doing in our parliaments? And that is why you see what's happening in Burkina Faso, what's happening in Niger, what's happening in Mali. The youth are saying, now we know. Now our eyes are open. Now we know who the real problem is. Yes, we know the enemy as the former colonizers. We know the enemy as the multinationals who are in our countries, siphoning as much as they can. Yes, we know the NGOs are nothing but wolf in sheep's clothing. Yes, we know some of the embassies are no good. They are there to make sure that the instability in our countries continue. We know all that. However, we also know that our leaders could stop it. So yes, it is that the youth are rising. The youth are saying, you leaders, if you do not do the right thing, we will replace you. So we need more Traores in Africa. What's happening in Burkina Faso must be supported. What's happening in Niger must be supported. What's happening in Mali must be supported. The youth of Africa are sick and tired of being sick and tired. The issues of the root must be addressed. World Bank must stop giving us frivolous loans. World Bank must treat Africa fairly. Ours is a simple ask. We are simply saying to the world, we demand Africa that can be treated fairly, an Africa that can be treated as equals on the world stage, an Africa that is free of racism, bigotry, and hate. Our ask is a simple one. Our position is of stating the facts, stating the truth, constants that do not change. We're simply asking that the world does unto us what they would want done unto them. Anybody that has an issue that Africa has taken is somebody who is anti-earth. We want a peaceful world. We want a world that is just. And that is all we are asking. That is all our children are asking. Our children are saying we're tired of watching our uranium power 2/3 of France while they call us a dark continent. Our children are saying we're sick and tired of seeing our mineral wealth fund Western education while we don't have quality education in Africa. Our children are saying we're sick and tired of seeing our natural resources fund healthcare in the Western world, while we don't have access to that Western world. So it is the revolution that has been proclaimed, the revolution the likes of Kwame Nkrumah and others had hoped for. While it may have taken us years to get where we are, the unfinished business that our Pan-African fathers started back in 1963 must be completed, and our youth in Africa are acutely aware of that. The leadership that is not awakening, the leadership that doesn't understand that imperialism no longer has room in Africa, neocolonialism no longer has room in Africa, colonization no longer has room in Africa, exploitation of Africa can no longer continue. A leader who doesn't understand that is a leader whose days are numbered. The African youth are not taking it anymore. The African youth are awakened, their eyes are open, and they're saying, you either stand up and defend what belongs to us, or we will replace you, plain and simple. The unfinished business that our Pan-African fathers, the unfinished business that Kwame Nkrumah and many others started, it must be completed, it must be finished. You and I, we have a responsibility. You make us accountable as your elders. Make your leadership accountable. If your leadership is not accountable, replace them. I thank you. As I was getting ready for today's lecture, I came across a quotation from the man we are honoring today, His Excellency Kwame Nkrumah. He said, a state in the grip of neo-colonialism is not master of its own destiny. It is this factor which makes neo-colonialism such a serious threat to world peace. Following him, there was Marcus Garvey prior to him. He said, a people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Jomo Kenyatta also reminded us that when the missionaries arrived in Africa, the Africans had the land and the missionaries had the Bible. They taught us how to pray with our eyes closed. When we opened our eyes, they had the land and we had the Bible. Finally, Patrice Lumumba said, the day will come when history will speak. Africa will write its own history. It will be a history of glory and dignity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment. It was 3:10 a.m. as I was fast asleep in my bed in Tennessee when my phone rang. On the other end, there was a woman by the name of Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. She was the then chairman of the African Union. She proceeded to inform me that the then ambassador to the United States, the African Union ambassador to the United States, had just turned in her resignation and that she was going to be running for president of her country. A wonderful thing indeed. What was surprising, however, was that she wanted me to be the next African Union ambassador to the United States. Keep in mind, I am 1,000% scientist with zero experience or knowledge of diplomacy or even politics. I left Zimbabwe as a teenager to go to the university in the United States. Had a degree in general chemistry, a master's in organic chemistry, went on straight to medical school, did a residency in general surgery and another one in family medicine, and went on straight to practice medicine for 25 years. Nothing to do with diplomacy in any way, shape, or form. So to my surprise, I said, Madam Chair, why on earth would you want somebody like myself to go to Washington, D.C. and be an ambassador? She said, well, look at me. I'm a pediatrician. I said, but you went to South Africa. You took positions that took you through the ranks of where you are now. I have no experience and you just want to throw me into the wolves. She said, no, we're tired of getting our rear ends kicked and we need somebody who understands the Americans. I said, I do understand the, you think so? She said, yes, you do. It took me 6 months of back and forth with her until finally I said, you know what? The joke is on you. I'm going to go to Washington. I'm going to have fun. I had not taken sabbatical since coming to the United States. I'm going to drink tea and be wined and dined, and after 6 months, I'm going to look at her and say, Madam, I tried, but I couldn't do it. So that was the plan. I actually did not look for an apartment. I stayed in a hotel for 5 months. I would go into the meetings and I would sit and I would be laughing at myself to say, what on earth are you doing in Washington, D.C. pretending to be a diplomat? What I ended up doing is sitting in the meeting rooms, and as a medical doctor, naturally, I'm making diagnosis. Oh, you got a goiter, I need to see you. Oh, you got bipolar, I got a pill for you. I'm making diagnosis of the congressmen and other politicians and ambassadors that were in the room because I did not think I could contribute to anything that was really going on. But from time to time, a comment would be made that would make me wake up and say, did I just hear that? Was that not an insult to us? Did that individual actually just abuse us? And I'm in the room with seasoned ambassadors. Ambassadors with years of experience. I'm waiting for one of them to say something. To my surprise, nothing was said. So the first month, I'm the new kid on the block. I'm just a medical doctor here. I just don't know what's going on here. I'm watching and I'm listening. And slowly I begin to realize there was something wrong going on. Why is it that we are not speaking up as ambassadors? We are here to represent 1.4 billion people who need our voices. Why are we mute? Well, you know, having been born and raised in Zimbabwe during apartheid, we fought. I was a young teenager when I saw many of my colleagues leave and join the revolution, and many died. So when it comes to fighting, I was prepared. I got to where I got so sick and tired of attending these meetings because I was sick and tired of the abuse. I attended meetings on the African continent and the abuse continued, and the mutinous from us also continued until one day I said, enough is enough. I'm an African woman and I have been given a platform and I have a mandate. I shall exercise my mandate. You see, as a medical doctor, every day you're faced with people that come to you. Sometimes patients understand what's wrong with them. Sometimes they don't. We have a responsibility to help people figure out what's going on with them, organize their lives, make a diagnosis, give it a name, and help them deal with it. And in my stay in Washington, D.C., early on I made a diagnosis that which was ailing was our ignorance and understanding of what was really going on, our fear of those who don't look like us, and the fact that we have been lied to, we have been miseducated, we have been misinformed. That had to change. So it is, I sought out to execute my mandate, which included, in addition to engaging the US government, it also included mobilizing the African diaspora to participate in the development of Africa. How could the diaspora participate in the development of Africa if they are ignorant about what is happening in Africa? So I started speaking to them. I summarized it in a very simple matter, that we have a responsibility to finish the unfinished business that was started by our Pan-African fathers back in 1963 when they met in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Sadly, when our ancestors, our Pan-African fathers went to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, they were divided. We had the Casablanca group, which was led by Kwame Nkrumah. It was Ghana, Guinea, Mali, Egypt, Algeria, Morocco, and Tunisia. They were the Casablanca group that said Africa for the Africans and African Union now. They wanted change. They understood the importance of unity. They knew for Africa to move forward, Africa must speak with one voice. They demanded an Africa with one customs union, an Africa with one central bank, an Africa with one military, an Africa that was truly integrated, because it is only that Africa that's going to deliver true African liberation, economically, politically, and otherwise. Failure to accomplish that is a defeat for the African people. There were only 7. The majority were the Monrovia group. There were 35. I said, let's kind of hold off on this unity thing. You see, they had tasted a little bit of this superficial, fake independence. Let's kind of go slow. 2024, we're still going slow. The Monrovia group were the majority, they won. We often say, Africa lost in 1963 when the Casablanca group succeeded at thwarting that which the Casablanca wanted. The Monrovia group failed us. Year in, year out, the African leaders would meet. The issue of an Africa that spoke with one voice was tabled, and year in and year out, NATO nations were in full force to see to it that the African leaders do not vote for an Africa that spoke with one voice. Not only is they remain in full force to make sure that Africa never gets to be united. We have failed Africa. Our leadership has failed Africa. Allow me to describe what I call the African tree of life. A tree of life that once upon a time thriving, it gave the most luscious fruits, beautiful flowers. A tree that everybody counted on, a tree that fed the African people. Something happened. The flowers don't bloom as beautiful as they used to be. The branches keep falling off. The leaves are never as green and luscious as they should be. So they, through the media, mainstream media, through the NGOs who come in sheep's clothing, we know they are wolves, through the embassies throughout Africa, they have made you believe that it's your problem. See, these fruits are not doing like they should. It's because it's your problem. Focus on the fruits. Focus on the leaves. Focus on the branches. They don't want you to focus on the root. You see, if you don't address the issues of the root, you will forever be talking about the flowers, the branches, and the leaves of this tree year in and year out. And that's what we have been taught to believe. On top of that, while they continue to lie to us, while they continue to throw us a shiny object and want us to focus on frivolous things that do not address the root, don't forget, the biggest defeat was the mind. When they made us believe that white was bad, black is bad, you are like the devil, you represent the devil, your color is bad, and you must denounce even yourself. And when you are denouncing yourself, you must praise them. Even though we know very well that their skin is a mutation of the original, which is you. The original DNA. Anybody else that does not look black is a mutation of the original thing. They made you forget that. They made you forget that. So you see, they set the stage. They've been lying to us for years, for centuries. They even taught you to hate yourself. So let's go to the bottom, to the root of why the African tree is ailing. They started with the mind. And until you realize that as a black person, you're suffering from the legacy of colonization, until you realize as a black person, you're suffering from the legacy of slavery, nothing, and I mean nothing you do is going and feathers of humanity. One who must stand on top of the tallest mountain and proclaim to the world who you are. Why are you failing to do so? Because you've been put asleep. You have been lied to. And it is only you who can make that change. It is only you who can look in the mirror and say, I am beautiful. I am the mother of humanity. I am the father of humanity. What will it take, my brothers and sisters, for you to understand that basic fact? And until you do, your ability to change Africa is going to fail. Tell me why. That we are all very much aware that the World Bank and IMF are using the rating agencies. I'm now talking about the issues of the root. They are using rating agencies to label African governments and give them poor ratings so the World Bank can justify giving frivolous interest rates to African governments. Today, as we speak, the average African country is paying way over 50% of their GDP on loan repayments to the World Bank. Loans that we all know very well, they have been paid a gazillion times over. And yet, twice a year, our ministers of finance, they go to Washington to attend the World Bank meetings. They say nothing. They know this is happening. Mr. Minister, Honorable Minister, what on earth are you doing? All of you collectively, why can't you go to the World Bank and say, enough is enough, we're no longer paying for these loans? And you know why they're not doing it? They're scared. They're scared for those who don't look like them. They know the truth, but they just can't speak up. It goes back to the mind. Let's take another issue of the root. And all of it you will find that what underscores our inability to deal with these issues, it goes back to the mind. I'm going to keep underscoring the mind. Because all we gotta do is stand up. As we speak, the remains of our ancestors are sitting in jars, in basements throughout Europe. Why is it that our ministers of culture, they continue to go to Europe, they visit with these governments, when they are sitting in those meeting rooms, in those basements, the remains of your ancestors are sitting in jars and you say nothing. What is wrong with this picture? What is wrong with us Africans? How long do you think a finger of a British soldier lost in Ghana? Not even a minute. They would storm into Ghana, kill thousands of people just to recover that little finger. But when it comes to us, it's okay, Massa. How long? Why are these ministers not able to speak up? Why are these ministers saying, no, when you invite us to France, when you invite us to Britain, when you invite us to all those former colonies that are hiding our artifacts which they stole, that are hiding the remains of our ancestors, we are not coming until this wrong is righted, plain and simple. Why can't we do it? It goes back to the mind. We're still talking about the issues of the root. Have you ever wondered, when we go to the World Trade Organization, we know Ghana, the best cocoa in the world, comes from West Africa. It's only the past few years that Ghana was allowed to add value to the cocoa. Prior to that, if Ghana had said we wanted to add value to our own cocoa products, tariffs would be slapped on those value-added products that it wasn't even worth the value addition. What are our ministers of trade doing about that? The World Trade Organization, an organization that's giving a blind eye to the biggest abuses of the African continent. Ghana cocoa is being mislabeled. Tell me, you travel throughout Europe, every hotel you go to is Swiss cocoa, Swiss chocolate, Swiss this, Swiss that. Show me 1 acre of cocoa in Switzerland. And yet nobody says anything about it. I kind of like the Nigerian guy who walked into a museum in Britain. There was a humongous bronze statue that was in the entrance. And the man brought his tools. I don't know if some of you heard about him. He brought his tools into the museum and he started unscrewing the statue. And when they come to say, what are you doing? He says, this is mine, it's stolen product. I am from Benin. This is Benin bronze. It belongs to me. He created a scene, but he made a point. Because he said, if my ministers cannot do it, I will. Are we stupid or what? As I say some of these things, it's almost like it's a joke. It's like it's a cartoon movie. It's a comedy show. But unfortunately, this is our reality. Why is it that we are not capable of fighting back? East Africa, the best teas, products out of Africa are taken into Europe and relabeled, and we know it. When I was in Washington, I would talk to my colleagues. I made a lot of friends. I said, but why do you abuse the Africans like this? I attended a conference where they had journalists from all the major medias. And I asked the question, I said, why do you report lies about Africa? Why do you tell falsehoods? And one journalist from CNN said it very nicely. He said, Ambassador, we say it because nobody challenges us. It's that simple, my brothers and sisters. We say it because nobody challenges us. And he said, if somebody challenged us, we would stop. But you Africans,